So now, the one thing that just watching I watched the All-22 and the Bengals the last 4 games, and then I talked to some of their people this week. The one thing about Jamar Chase that makes him even that much more dangerous. He's big, he's physical, he's fast, but it's the chemistry that he's got with Joe Burrow. These guys are so in lockstep that Joe can throw right to a spot in a third down situation and just absolutely know that Chase is going to be there. There's a trust, and they've repped it to death. And these guys are, these guys could complete passes in a dark alley. It's amazing.
It is. Jamar, and you watch the way that he and quarterback, why Joe Cool, they're on the same page, and not just the things you said. He's big, he's physical, but the want-to. The want-to and the desire that he has when you think about Jamar Chase, he's like, no one's going to block, no one's going to guard me. He believes in that. We talk about that like that big hit that Ronnie Lott said, hey, I'm going to set the tone, and this is what he's going to do to Icky. And he believed that. He knew that. When you watch this receiver and him and you watch the quarterback, Joe Burrows and Chase, they don't believe that they can be stopped. You watch, when they got time, they don't believe that you can stop and shut them down. And that's what's going to be big tonight, because you're going to have to test those guys, because they're going to test this Niners defense. I know the Niners defense want to play better and do some things. And look, offense, defense, all of them got to play better than for the Niners. And guess what? Cincinnati's got to play better, and they understand that. But this is going to be a hell of a game because of the fact you're talking about a short week. The team's got 13 days to get ready. Your quarterback now is feeling back good, and you heard Icky and what they were saying. He's got that twinkle back. He's got that look back. He's got his swagger back. And you heard, they said, the Niners, you hearing, and this is good because you hear these guys and they're watching the Bengals close. They're like, the Niners are going to have to make plays too.
Yeah.
They're not this, everyone's all, this is one way. Like, no. Hey, and they're acknowledging they don't have to play perfect to beat the Niners, because the Niners, let's face it, they're a good team and they're a top echelon team. The 49ers is a top echelon team, and we know where we think that they can get barring injuries. But you have Debo, who's physical, who's the most physical receiver, in my opinion, one of the most physical receivers in the league. That is the most versatile receiver in the league that can run the ball at the eye back, can run it from shotgun, can do anything. But you don't have that guy. And then you don't have one of the most physical tackles in the league in Trent. So now when you look at that, so that's why they're saying, look, the Niners are going to have to make plays, and the Niners can't blink. They can't play horrible football and win this game. Now, they should win this game, but you can't play horrible, and you got to tackle better. The Niners have to tackle better.
Yeah, 19 missed tackles for the 49ers the last 2 weeks. They got to tackle better. They got to set the edge better up front in the run game. I mean, they really missed Samson Ebukam in that area, and they just got to tackle better. They got, and they look a little fatigued. 49ers are limping towards the bye week. I got to ask you, because you were as physical a player as this league's ever seen as well. I mean, it's funny, I'm sitting here talking to you, but, you were incredibly physical. How, I interviewed Dave Lapham, the former Bengals offensive lineman, and I think he might have been a center or guard, but I asked him this week, I said, how many concussions did you have? And he's like, I don't know. I mean, and then there was the ones that were diagnosed, and then there were the ones that you just kind of played through. And it was a different era back there where you just got your bell rung. It wasn't like you were concussed.
Right.
You were not a run-around guy. You were a run-through guy. You had to have had a bunch of concussions. How many do you think you had as a pro?
Honestly, hundreds. I mean, had them at practice, had them in games, had them, training camp.
Is there any that stand out over any others?
I remember. I remember playing.
Or to the fact that they were concussions, just you don't remember them almost.
Sometimes I don't remember. Sometimes I just remember. I can't even think of the game. I don't even know the teams that I was playing against. That's how sometimes a play. Like I remember, 67-yard, an 73-yard run from against Atlanta, from scrimmage. I remember playing the 68-yard pass, K4 in the flat against New England. So I remember those plays, and I remember the teams, big plays. Oilers going for like 90 yards on like 10 carries, and just like, so I remember vividly plays against this, playing against Chicago Bears, jumping over a guy and picking up some more yards. But those concussion games, I don't remember who I was playing against. I'm talking about where it's dark. It goes dark and you just see these little flutters, like flutter bugs just fluttering, and you're like, dude, and you're just like, you're like, man, You go through that place where you're like, man, what's the play? Where am I at? And you just kind of go through. I remember looking back. I remember sometimes talking to guys. What's the play? What's it on? You get those concuss, and it's bad, man.
Okay, this is what I want to ask you about, because let's go back to last week's game against the Vikings. Brock Purdy, in the first 3 quarters, this is before the concussions, after the concussions. Before the concussion, he's 19 of 24, 252 passing yards. He's completing like 85% of his passes. He's got a touchdown, no picks. He's got a 124.3 passer rating. Then the Niners went quarterback sneak on back-to-back plays. On the first sneak, he was concussed on a hit by Jordan Hicks. After that concussion, he's 2 of 6 for 20 yards, 2 interceptions, a 4.2 passer rating. You played a much more physical position in fullback, but he's playing a more kind of cerebral position in quarterback, where he's got to verbalize all these things. Is it possible? I mean, I'm not looking to alleviate blame, and Brock isn't either, and the Niners aren't. Nobody's saying, well, those interceptions didn't really count. I was concussed. But you played the game, so you're the guy to ask. Is it possible that the concussions led to the picks? Is it possible that the concussions made him? I mean, how did you feel in game, low? Not weeks later, not days later. How did you feel after a concussion while you're still in the game?
Woozy. You feel like, okay, you still can play, but you just like, man, I'm not there. You feel like your supercharge is gone. And you just feel like I'm just going through the emotion. I'm gonna do my job. Okay, I'm gonna cut him on this play. I'm gonna take his legs out. Okay, I'm gonna just position. And you're in a fog. You're in a haze. You're like, hey, are you all right? You're like, yeah, let's go. Like, come on, Lo, let's go. I got you. And that's it. You want to say less. You want to do less, but you're just in a daze. You still can play, but you just don't feel something's off. And some of those interceptions, I don't know if, like Jennings was doing that dig route, right?
Right.
When he's coming across, and he throws it to a spot. And I think sometimes I believe that Purdy believes in his receivers too much. Sometimes he believes, which he should. That's why he's been successful.
And the one that you're talking about is the first interception.
Yes.
And there's some varying accounts of this play. Greg Cosell said that he felt like the defender jammed him on the line and rerouted him off course, and that Purdy was throwing to a spot, and that Jennings just couldn't work back to that spot and put it on the defender. But then Kyle Shanahan said that Jennings ran the route right, and that it was really, the throw was just too much in the middle, and then he put it more on the quarterback. But it seems like, listen to Cosell talk about the NFL Films people that analyzed it, and obviously Kyle knows the play better than anybody. He devised the play, he came up with it. But the NFL Films people, when they saw it, said, hey, you know what? Jennings would have gotten there if he hadn't been kind of pushed outside by the defender off the line of scrimmage.
And that's what teams are doing. That's what people think. Oh, Purdy's, what happened to Purdy? I'm like, I think it's horrible that everyone's been waiting for this to happen. I think when you look at the media and you look at everyone, they're cowards. A lot of people. They're just like, oh, he's gonna fall. What's wrong with this guy? It's like, dude, this is the National Football League. What do you expect this guy to go undefeated? Would you expect him not to throw interceptions? Would you expect him not to lose football games? And it's like, oh, all right, now what's going? No,
they're laying in wait, waiting for this guy to play.
And it's like, dude, but that's what they did to this guy who walked on this earth 2,000 years ago, and they crucified him. So it's like so crazy just to watch how we are as humans. We you know what? You're praising, you give them that, but then you can't wait to kick them when they're down. And that's why Purdy understands it. It's like, can't wait to, what I tell you, told you can, and it's like, why? We are all failed. We've all failed. This is a game. And we're doing the best we can to analyze it. We're doing the best we can to give people a perspective. I think on that play, like you said, teams are now, they're saying, Purdy trusts, and he's like, look, they're going to jam him. So now they're disarmed. So Purdy gets to that spot, and he lets it go, and he knows that receiver's coming in there, and they're going to make the catch. So now what they're doing, they're jamming, so it's like he can't throw that out. 1, 2, 3, let the ball go. They're playing outside shade. They're taking certain things away. They're reading. Now they're playing a robber. They're coming down and robbing stuff. So now he's got to get off of that, and it's messed up with a little bit of the timing. But this league, this is what happened. Cleveland started doing that. Teams are doing that. Now, guess what? Nothing stays the same. We get older. We move. And now Purdy's got to adjust. It's still the same reads and all those different things, but now he's got to find a different way. Okay, when they do this, they took that, this is what should happen. So it's just going through progression. This game continues. It's still football. We get it. Only one ball. Only one guy can have the ball at one time. See ball, get ball. That's going to be immutable. But now this guy, teams are saying, this is what's going on. Okay, if you do this and make him hold it 1, 2, 3, now he's got to come off, and now this has happened. So now we're going to rotate here. So they're just adapting. That's football. That's why Purdy was so effective early, because he knew the spot to throw the ball to, and he let it go. And that's why he's the best for this system, because he knows the timing and he knows where the ball go. And that's what Trey couldn't do it, and that's what Jimmy couldn't do with consistency. And this kid's been able to do it. He is going to be okay. I'm not going to compare this guy to Joe Montana and Tom, all that. That's crazy. Hogwash for people ever to say that. But you can say this guy understands this system, and he runs it very, very efficiently.
Yeah. You know, it's funny, too. When Purdy is completing 90-some-odd% of his passes against Arizona, people would say, well, you know, we all know intellectually that he's not going to win all the games. And then he beats Dallas, and he hangs 42 on a defense that has been dominating. And people say, you know what? We know he's going to have games where he throws picks. We know he's going to have games where he loses. But then he has the games where he loses, and he has games where he throws picks, and everybody jumps off the bandwagon. I told you he wasn't the guy. I told you he wasn't the guy. Wait. 3 weeks ago, you said that you knew that he was going to lose games. You knew he was going to throw interceptions. Now, though, you see it, and suddenly he ain't the guy. He's not the guy.
That part.
And there were people kind of rooting earlier this week to see, rooting against him, but also kind of rooting like, hey, you know, Sam Darnold's going to get in there and there's going to be a competition. There's no comparison between those guys. Brock Purdy is worlds better than Sam Darnold. I watched every snap of training camp. I've got an open mind about Sam Darnold, but Brock Purdy completes a higher percentage of his passes, a better touchdown-to-interception ratio. He's more accurate. Sam Darnold has thrown 55 interceptions and 55 career starts. If he played today, he's guaranteed to throw you an interception, turn the ball over once or twice. So we got the fans in the parking lot waving to you. Look at that. Everybody loves those Niner chains, by the way. The guy's got the Flash 80 chain. But I thought that was entertaining this week. It's like, for 3 weeks, as Brock Purdy's ripping up the NFL, people are saying, well, you know, he's not going to go undefeated. Well, of course.
Right.
Who has? And, you know, he's not going to have games where he doesn't throw a pick in the fourth quarter and cost you the game. Well, if you know that and then you see it, why you jumping off the bandwagon is the first time you see it. It kind of goes to show that there's a portion of the Niner fan base that believes in Brock Purdy, and there's a portion of the Niner fan base that either was all in on Trey Lance or still believe that Brock Purdy's Mr. Irrelevant, and they don't understand that, you know what? What you're seeing with Purdy is real.
Yeah.
He can process what he sees. The ball comes out on time. For the most part, he's pretty accurate. And he's not perfect. He's not going to win all the games. But he, you know, don't jump off the bandwagon because he loses a game or throws a fourth quarter pick. Suddenly it's like, he's not the guy. Let me tell you.
Right.
It's like, well, wait a second. Did you ever believe in this guy, or were you just kind of going with the flow because the numbers were so overwhelming in his favor?
Right. And that's why I love working with you, because, you know, you stay consistent. I could be wrong, you could be wrong, and you stay consistent, but we don't quit on each other, because it's like, hey, look, we're going to have bad days. You're going to pick better games than me sometimes. I'm going to pick better than you. But we don't jump off the bandwagon and don't think we know what we're talking about. Right. And that's what people do. You know, you don't say, oh, now Lorenzo, he played football this year. Now he doesn't know football. No. It's like sometimes you get it wrong. Humans fail. That's just what it is. And that's what my dad always told me, Larry, and I think you could appreciate it. He said, son, guess what? People and friends are like buttons on an elevator. They can either take you up or down. Yeah. And you know what? And that's what and that's just the way it is. They either can take you up, where you just going to ride with them. They're going to push you and all those, or they want to take you down. And if you know that, and that's what Purdy, you think that he knows, and Shanahan and this team, they're keeping everything close to their vest. They know that they're the only ones that can keep going up, or they can go down. They have a choice today. Today is going to be a tough physical game. You know, you're going to have a choice. I say CDC. Choices, decisions, and consequences. There's going to be a choice. Should I make that hit Should I take this guy head on, or should I try to cut him, or should I let him run by me and arm tackle him? And then there's going to be a decision. I have a choice. Then it's going to be a decision. What did I decide? Did I decide to try to arm tackle him, let him pick up 3 or 4 more yards? Did I hit him head on where I can stop him there and attack? Now it's 3rd and 5 instead of 3rd and 1. And then there's a consequence. If it's 3rd and 1 or 4th and 1, the consequence is more than likely they're going to convert that 3rd and 1. If it's 3rd and 4, 3rd and 5, 3rd and 7, because I made that consequence and said, you know what, I'm making that tackle right here no matter what it takes, then it's more than likely they're not going to convert. That's what it comes down to. CDC, choices, decisions, and consequences, and it's about making the choice today. How do I be great? Because it's going to be a physical game.
No question. All the headlines go to guys like Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, Joe Mixon. Those are the guys that get the headlines. To me, I think the key matchups in this game are going to be the Niner offensive tackles against these edge rushers. If you look at Cincinnati, they got Sam Hubbard at left defensive end. They've got Trey Hendrickson at right defensive end. So you got Hendrickson going up against Jalen Moore. Hendrickson's got 7.5 sacks, but he also has 3.5 sacks that were nullified by penalties. This guy very well could roll into this game as the number 1 pass rusher in the entire league, and he's going up against Jalen Moore. That's going to be a real interesting matchup to watch. On the flip side, you got Sam Hubbard, the former Buckeye, who's going up against Colt McKivitz, and McKivitz had 6 pressures allowed last week against the Vikings. It was his worst game of the year. Yeah. McKivitz needs to bounce back against Hubbard. Jalen Moore needs to show that he can block maybe the NFL's best defensive end. Now, if you say best defensive end, people don't say Trey Hendrickson. But the one thing in watching the film and looking at the All-22, Hendrickson and Hubbard, their get-offs, and in other words, when they come up out of their stance, these guys are rolling full speed, 2 steps. And to me, that's where this game's going to be won. The other thing I'm looking for is the Bengals have a lot of like multi-positional defensive backs. They got a ton of speed on the back end. They got 3 guys in their secondary that run sub 4.3. So you got really. I mean, it's going to be interesting. Can the Niner receivers gain separation against these guys down the field? And that's going to be the matchup I'll be looking for on the Niner offensive side, and on the defensive side, or on the offensive side for the Niners. Can they block Hendrickson and Hubbard? And they call them the H boys because it's not just. It's B.J. Hill, Sam Hubbard, Trey Hendrickson, and then you got DJ Reader, who's a monster in the middle. He's a load. He's 330 pounds inside, but they bring a lot of rush up front, and they've got a lot of speed on the back end, and we're going to find out. Without Debo. Who's going to step up? Yeah. Brandon Ayuk had an okay game last week. George Kittle needs to have a huge game today. If you look at the numbers, the Bengals are not very strong in the defensive middle. So that means it's a big day for Kittle. And to me, the big matchup in the secondary is going to be Brandon Ayuk going up against Cam Taylor-Britt, who the Niners wanted in the draft a couple of years ago, and Bengals traded right in front of them and took Cam Taylor-Britt out of Nebraska, and he's physical, really physical and fast. So it's going to be something to watch. Let's do this. Let's take a timeout. We got some scores that will update you from around week 8 in the NFL. JD's going to join us coming up next. It's the Kickoff Show presented by Habas Law. You've been wronged. Habas Law will fight to make it right. Call 1-800-INJURED or visit HabasLaw.com, HABBASLAW.com, HabasLaw.com. We'll be back with John Dickinson, who joins us from Levi Stadium as we inch closer to this Week 8 battle. The Niners 5-point favorites looking to snap a 2-game slide. Bengals have won 3 out of 4 and coming off their bye and feeling good. Perfect day for football. We got more straight ahead on 95.7 The Game.
Prescriptions require an online consultation with a healthcare provider who will determine if appropriate. Restrictions apply. See website for details and important safety information. Subscription required. Price varies based on product and subscription plan.
Hey guys, did you know there's a generic form of Viagra that works just the same, but is 95% cheaper? And you can get it online? Just go to hims.com/joy. Through Hims, you'll get a free medical consultation.
Cincinnati Bengals, they're starting to get their mojo. Joe Cool is finally healthy. And he said, not only they're going to have to make plays, but the Niners are. He said they like their chances. What say you, Jay?
Yeah, I think the 49ers, this is a defense, I think, that's been a little bit maligned the last couple of weeks, and the 49ers are going to have to show up today defensively and put some pressure on Joe Burrow and get off the field and make some plays. But I also think even if they do that, the Bengals are still going to score some points. I think Burrow's going to make plays and be able to throw the ball to Jamar Chase and Tyler Boyd and spread it around. And so I almost feel even if the 49ers do play a good defensive game, the Bengals are still going to put up at least in the 20s, which means the onus is going to be on the 49ers offense to go down and be able to score the football and maybe have to win a shootout, believe it or not, in this game. I look at the Bengals' inability to stop the run as something that's really promising for the 49ers. I think this is a big get Christian McCaffrey and the running game back on track kind of a game for San Francisco. And then all eyes are going to be on Brock Purdy, who's cleared to go, healthy and active. But, does he take a shot? And if he does take some kind of a shot, how does he react to that? Because, the independent arbiters up in the booth are going to be keeping an eye on anything related to Brock Purdy based on the short turnaround and him being able to be cleared with the concussion. So big game. Bengals have all the momentum. 49ers trying to I think just get to the bye. Get one more win and get to the bye on the short week. This is a very evenly matched football game, I think, today between two teams that are going to go far come January.
A lot of people are very surprised, JD, that Brock was cleared. He's the first guy cleared since who basically went through the protocol in the short week since Kenny Pickett a year ago. So all eyes will be on Purdy, who was playing great ball for 3 quarters. He'd completed 85% of his passes, I believe, going to the fourth. Then he gets concussed after a couple quarterback sneaks, and he throws a couple picks late. And I was talking to Lowe about what does that feel like? We're all speculating as far as was there some kind of cause and effect as far as the concussions and the 2 picks. But I want to ask you about Kyle Shanahan, because I think Shanahan's one of the best coaches in football. And this whole talk about, Shanahan's on the hot seat was always just a bunch of crap. But then, it was just a joke. I mean, that's just people talking about that are just
people
idiots.
said that. People said that this week. My goodness,
not this week.
I didn't hear that this
said
week.
That in the last month or so. He's on the hot seat. He was never on any hot seat. He made it up. The 49ers,
Fake
though,
news.
were within one possession the entire fourth quarter against the Vikings, and they ran it 3 times and they threw it 13 times. The week before against the Browns, they were within one possession in the fourth quarter against the Browns. They ran it 3 times and they threw it 13 times. Does Kyle Shanahan get a little pass happy in crunch time? I mean, not only you think about those numbers, then you mix in the fact that his quarterback, was concussed. Maybe he didn't know about it till later, but you'd think that Niners would try to run the ball a little bit more in the fourth quarter. Does he get too pass happy with the game on the line? What do you think?
I think he does, and I think some of it is the confidence that he has in Brock Purdy. I think the 49ers really believed in the Vikings game specifically that they had the ability to throw on Minnesota if they could protect and throw to the middle of the field. So I think that's part of it. I think the McCaffrey injury maybe could be a little bit part of it as far as the Vikings game, and obviously he wasn't playing at the end of the Browns game, and Deebo Samuel was out at the end of the Browns game. So I think that probably plays a role in it, because say what you want about Mason and Elijah Mitchell, there just isn't that trust level that Kyle Shanahan has with McCaffrey and with Deebo Samuel when he chooses to put Deebo in the backfield. And I feel like if Deebo had been available, he probably would have been the guy that would have got the bulk of the carries down the stretch in the game where McCaffrey couldn't finish a couple of weeks ago had he not already been out himself. And so I think it's part that. And it does go contrary to the 49ers and the statement that's come out these last couple of games, wanting to be able to win a gritty game. They've said that. Fred Warner said that a lot. They want to win a gritty game, an ugly game, a game where not everything goes right, but they kind of steal it late. And they've had 2 chances to do that the last 2 weeks on the road. They haven't been able to do it. And when you don't run the ball, I mean, gritty games to me are running the ball, even maybe when you late in the game when a lot of teams like to pass it. And we've seen the 49ers do that in the past, run the ball even when maybe it's time, a lot of teams would be throwing the ball around the stadium. So I do think it's something that they're going to have to do today. I think this is a weakness of the Bengals that can be exploited, and I feel like it's short passing game to McCaffrey. It's a lot of runs to McCaffrey. It's maybe mixing in more backs today and really trying to wear down the Bengals as the game goes on and have this be one of those games where maybe they get into the 150 to even 200 yards rushing and win a game just it's a physical grudge match.
I like what you're saying, JD. If you were going to point out a couple things that stand out to you as a concern, what concerns you about the Niners' defense against this Cincinnati offense? Can you go over a couple of those things that you say, if the Niners aren't able to do this, if Cincinnati is able to do this?
Well, they got to get the 49ers have to get pressure. Number one, I think the Bengals can throw it to the outside. I think the Bengals wide receivers, both Boyd and Jamar Chase, with Burrow throwing it to him, could be a problem today for the 49ers if they can't get to Burrow and heat him up. I think the Bengals will look to get rid of the ball quickly if the 49ers are starting to get pressure. Burrow's somebody that can get rid of the ball quickly. So I think this is as tough a matchup for the 49ers defense as they've had all year. The Bengals can get down in games and it doesn't faze them. The Burrow will sling it as much as he has to bring them back in a game. And so, the lack of pressure, which has been an issue, or getting pressure but not getting home has been an issue. I think the Vikings really exposed the 49ers middle of the field defensively when the Niners couldn't get home. So I think that's something the Bengals could try to exploit. So all eyes are going to be on Steve Wilks as well, and how much does he blitz and when does he blitz? That's been a huge topic of conversation, Larry and Lowe, as you guys know, throughout the week, with Shanahan basically throwing Steve Wilks under the bus and doing it a couple of times, and then Wilks coming out and apologizing essentially for the call, and then Kyle Shanahan walked back his comments a little bit on Friday, at least a less harsh assessment of the situational blitz that allowed that late half touchdown by the Vikings. So I think there's a lot of eyes on the 49ers defense today and how they handle a talented Bengals squad and just how the game is called and whether or not they're able to generate some pressure and get home the way that they haven't been able to do here these last couple of weeks. Yeah, guys, that was one of the real subplots of the week. Shanahan said that Wilks' zero blitz call at the end of the first half with 16 seconds left. He came to the podium and he said he knows he messed up that call. And that's just not the kind of verbiage that you typically hear. Coaches cover each other left and right, even when they're and I asked Chris Forster about it. I said, how do you feel about that direct? How do coaches feel when they get directly criticized by their head coach? And this is I kind of was glad that this came out because, Lo, you played in the league. I think the fans don't necessarily see this, but this is feelings are not really taken into account. Coaches coach players hard. The head coach talks to his assistant coaches hard. Bill Walsh, when Bubba Paris used to have, false starts, he would yell to Bob McKittrick, "Hey, Bob, can't you get Bubba to do that better?" And using that kind of psychology where Bubba felt bad because it was like he didn't want his position coach getting yelled at by the head coach. But there's not a lot of worrying about feelings here. But what do you guys think? And JD, why don't you go first as far as I do think there's a lot on the line today for Steve Wilks' defense, and I don't know, how Wilks honestly feels about that. Forster made it seem like, hey, man, there's a lot of money in the game today. She goes with the territory. Nobody's above being criticized, and it is what it is. But, man, you just don't hear that often. It was strange to hear. And you said he kind of walked it back. I don't know if he walked it back. He still said that Steve messed it up. He just said that he himself could have intercepted it. Yeah, he could have changed it, and he had an impact in it as well and took some of the blame. But ultimately, he basically said, "You messed up, man," and he said it on the podium for all of us to hear, which is
kind of unique.
And he did it on Wednesday for a second time, because he did it in the immediate aftermath at the podium in Minneapolis. And so he did it, and then there were 2 days to think about it, or at least a day and a half to think about it, from Monday night to Wednesday, and then he doubled down on it again. It was like he hadn't cooled off, or he had gotten more upset about it maybe in the time that he went back and reviewed the game and started getting ready for the Bengals game. So I think that was part of it. And yeah, I think he wanted to make sure, not that he absolved Wilks on Friday, but that he accepted the fact that he also shared some of the blame in it. I think the bigger question, honestly, is it's not so much that call, but it's the overall amount of blitzing and when the 49ers blitz versus what this defense is used to. If anything, I've gotten the sense from listening to Fred Warner, listening to Nick Bosa, and those two huddled up in the locker room after the game, just kind of talking some things over in Minneapolis as I was on hand for that. I wonder if there is just a little bit of a need to get on the same page between the defense that Wilks likes to call, with the blitz a part of it, and the defense that the 49ers have been used to running here these last few years before Wilks arrived, which is, rush 4, get home with 4, don't blitz as much, have everybody in the right position to be able to make a tackle. And I think that the combination of the two has left the 49ers vulnerable at times. They blitz. It's not always covered on the back end if they can't get home. And then, the explosive plays, and limiting explosive plays, I think, is huge for the 49ers defense today. But I think getting on the same page between the game Wilks likes to call and the personnel he has and the defense that the 49ers are used to running, I think that's the key.
Yeah, I just don't think you do it, JD. And I love Kyle Shanahan. And his father, coached against, and played against, and they're great people. And Wilks, a great man, great coach too, and
very prideful.
Very prideful. But I tell you, it's wrong. And you can't see. This is what we'll call hypocrisy. Because why didn't he say Christian McCaffrey fumbled the ball on the 3-yard line to touchdown right before half? Now you got a touchdown right at the beginning of the game. Instead, you change the game. You go up, you're getting ready to score a touchdown. You're up 7-0. So why aren't you on that? So I understand playing cover 0 can hurt your team. I get it. But what happens if there's a pick? So I just think that when you call out that now here's the deal. I have no problems with Kyle Shanahan and behind closed doors calling that coach in and say, look, you can't take that gamble. Even though we almost had that pick, it went the other way, went for a touchdown. You can't do that.
Risk reward, yeah.
You don't do that. Now, you can do that in closed door, but when you do it publicly, now you open up, and guess what? Guys on that team are talking about it. That was messed up. Let me tell you, I've been in this locker room for 17 years. It ain't no way in the world that players, some guys, aren't going over to the coach and said, I think that screwed up what he said to you. Because just like I said about McCaffrey, I guarantee there's guys that said that. I guarantee there's guys that said, what about when this offense do that? But now what you've done, you automatically put in an scapegoat or put in those things that now it's us against them or this, and that's what Kyle Shanahan doesn't need to do. He's too good of a coach. He's too good of a people person. He gets along with too many. That was wrong. I'm just telling you, you can lose your team and you can start getting coups when you start doing stuff like that, especially when it comes from the head, because now it didn't just hit him, it hurt his family. Everyone around heard that. There's people hearing that, looking for different jobs hearing that. Players hear that. So now everything around there, trust me, people are looking and the guys are listening. So I don't think you need to do that. I keep things behind closed doors.
I agree. And basically it's almost like, you pour blood and there's sharks in the water.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? And you poured blood around the guy and you're like, hey, why'd you do that? You didn't need to do that. And then it gives the media license to rip him, the fans license to rip him. Wilks is prideful. It'll be very interesting to see how the 49er defense plays today on the heels of that comment, because Wilks wants a big effort, and then you got Bosa kind of questioning the rush plan and this and that. I got to ask you, JD, we only got 3 minutes left in the segment. Tuesday, this game happens up against the backdrop of the NFL trade deadline. It's Tuesday at 4 o'clock Eastern. Diana Rossini, ESPN, reported just in the last 24 hours. John Lynch is on the phones. He's trying to make deals, trying to get an edge rusher, trying to get a slot corner. I would love to see this team get Kenny Moore out of Indy and Montez Sweat out out of Washington. The rub is that the Commanders want a second-round pick for Sweat. He's a free agent at the end of the year. Falcons and a couple other teams are offering their third. If you're the 49ers, would you offer your second-round draft choice to the Commanders for Montez Sweat? I would, and then I would sign him at the end of the year and not let him walk, and that would be my new edge rush combo. Sweat on one side, Bosa on the other. The Niners have spent a ton of money on their D-line. They're not getting home. They got to do something about it. What would you guys do? JD, go ahead. Go first.
Yeah, I think a 2 is a little high, and if he isn't going to be around. Now, if you're telling me you're going to be able to sign him and you're sure you're going to be able to sign him, then I think I would probably do it. If you're unsure you're going to be able to sign him, I would probably look elsewhere at the edge market at the deadline and see what you can get. But I like Sweat as a player. I do think they have to get a pass rusher between now and Tuesday afternoon. I don't think there's any doubt about it. They need somebody to put on the other side of Bosa. In the secondary, I get that they're kind of looking for somebody that could maybe play the slot, and that would allow more flexibility to move a guy like Lenore around a little bit, and so I understand that. But to me, the edge rusher is the most important thing for the Niners. I do think they're going to make some kind of a move between now and Tuesday, without a doubt.
Would you do it, Lo? Would you trade your 2 for Sweat?
You know what? I look at it. If I
You're
can't
inside
get him
your
signed,
window.
if I can't get it signed, yeah. If I can't get him signed, I don't know if I do it. But if you're John Lynch, if you want to win now, then you'd make it happen and you do it and deal with it later.
Yeah. To me, he's a difference maker. I really love Montez Sweat, and I think that would be a huge difference maker. JD, give us your final thought. Give us a prediction on this one today. What do you think is going to happen?
Yeah, this is going to be a tough one. I like the Niners' ability to run the ball. I like the Niners' defense ticked off based on everything that happened this week. I think San Francisco wins a shootout 30-27. 30-27 49ers today.
JD, good stuff. Appreciate you. We'll see you up there. Great work, John Dickinson, boots on the ground there at Levi Stadium. All right, we're going to take a timeout, Low. Coming up next, Dave Lapham's going to stop by. What do you think? Give me your prediction on the game.
Yeah, I think when you look at why Coach went cover 0, you look at it, they wasn't able to get home. That's why the ball was almost intercepted, because Cousins was getting hit going back, and he threw it underneath, and that's why it was almost intercepted. I just think that they want to win. They're going to play physical. I just think, short week, give Cincinnati the edge. I think Cincinnati wins this ball game.
I'm going to say the Niners get it done, but I'm going to say it's going to be very close. I'm going to say 21-17. 49ers, a little lower scoring game. The kickoff show presented by Habas Law. You've been wronged. Habas Law will fight to make it right. Call 1-800-INJURED or visit habaslaw.com. The voice of the Cincinnati Bengals, the color analyst, the former Bengal offensive lineman, Dave Lapham, is going to join us next as we get you closer to kickoff. Larry Krueger, Low Neal here at the Santa Clara Hilton on 95.7 The Game.
Black Friday is coming, and that's the smart time to shop for a top-rated TV from Samsung, LG, or Sony. But why wait? You can get those Black Friday TV deals right now at Video Only, and then enjoy Thanksgiving with
Over Solo Dolo down in the Big H. Meanwhile, this is Warriors Live. We appreciate you tuning in here on 95.7 The Game. Of course, 4 o'clock tip today in Houston for the Golden State Warriors, coming off the 122-114 victory at the Sacramento Kings. And the big name was Stephen Curry, 41 points on 19 shots, including 7 3-pointers. Jonathan Kuminga and Moses Moody chipping in. Chris Paul had 12 assists. Klay Thompson with 7 makes on 12 attempts. But the big story coming into today is the season debut, much anticipated, mind you, of Draymond Green. And so even though it's only game 3 of the season, we got ourselves kind of a couple juicy storylines against a team in Houston that the Warriors defeated all 4 times they faced them last year. Did not score less than 116 points in any of those 4 matchups against the Rockets. But Draymond Green is going to make his debut after sustaining an ankle injury in the preseason, and that means basically what all Warriors fans were wondering, would Chris Paul come off the bench? The answer is yes. According to 95.7 The Game Warriors insider Anthony Slater reporting just moments ago that Chris Paul is going to be on the bench coming off, so he will likely be the 6th man for Steve Kerr. And this is an interesting look for the Golden State Warriors at what their season might look like at full strength, what the potential playoff rotation could look like at full strength. It's the first time we've seen the Warriors with all of their pieces still technically one to report, as Jonathan Kuminga is a game-time decision with a left foot injury. But Stephen Curry, who was questionable, his designation was earlier today, is expected to go down in Houston. And so we're looking at the starting lineup of Stephen Curry, Klay Thompson, Andrew Wiggins, Draymond Green, Kevon Looney. That is the starting 5 here this afternoon for the Golden State Warriors. Chris Paul will be coming off the bench. And so now we'll get to see the team that was kind of advertised in the offseason when the Warriors made that big blockbuster trade, sending Jordan Poole to the Washington Wizards in exchange for Chris Paul. So we'll see what happens here today. I expect something kind of similar to what we've seen already from Steve Kerr, because Draymond Green is going to be on a minutes restriction. TBD whether it's 20, whether it's 25, but he expects to be on a minutes restriction tonight. And so the Warriors starters will have to do some shifting. Chris Paul, and whether or not he finishes the basketball game, is also going to be of note. But entering this game and coming off the first road win of the season for the Warriors, that, of course, was something else that plagued them throughout the season last year. They did not win a road game in 2022 until their 7th road game of the season. That was on November 13th against, ironically, the Sacramento Kings. So were there any road woes entering this year? Steve Kerr, after the game in Sacramento, kind of tried to downplay it, essentially saying last season is last season. And so far, this season has become this season because the road woes have not carried over immediately. Houston is a team that we all expect the Warriors to beat potentially handedly, as they did so by an average of about 12 points last year, and again, those 4 victories against Houston in 2022 and 23. So the big storylines are the road woes over, Draymond Green is back, how does Chris Paul shift into that 6th man role, and then, of course, how will the young players and the rest of that rotation fall into line with 20 to 25 minutes, assumingly, being given to Draymond Green, Chris Paul coming off the bench, Jonathan Kuminga and Moses Moody, in my estimation, have done a fantastic job through the first 2 games of carrying what was a good preseason into now a good start to the regular season. Still, again, only 2 games in out of the 82. However, in my opinion, Jonathan Kuminga and Moses Moody are players that have forced Steve Kerr's hand so far and are forcing their way into this rotation. This is a team that is now devoid of the Anthony Lambs, the Ty Jeromes, players that ate up minutes last year, much to the dismay of perhaps some fans, but also I'm sure of Kuminga and Moody, who are hoping to get some minutes and take that second-year leap, now being forced to take the third-year leap. So it'll be very interesting to see how they fall into place after coming off a very good game in which Moses Moody as well as Jonathan Kuminga combined for 47 minutes and were a plus 20 cumulatively against the Sacramento Kings. So can the young players step up? And also, of course, fall in line behind the guy that stole the show in Sacramento, Stephen Curry, 35 years young and 41 points. Now 91 combined points in the last 2 games in Sacramento, of course, dating back to Game 7 of the first-round Western Conference Series against the Kings. Stephen Curry appears to be just as young as ever, and a guy that at least, did have an injury designation, at least coming into this game with left foot soreness, but expected to go and expected to play, I would imagine, a similar amount of minutes as we've seen the first two games, which have resulted in a close loss to the Phoenix Suns at home, and then perhaps not necessarily a close win against Sacramento. They led by double digits the majority of that second half until the Kings kind of closed the gap. So it's also interesting within the broader scope of this kind of road stretch that the Warriors have to begin this season, because right now the Warriors, it's their second road game of 7 of their first 8 games being on the road. So the Warriors kind of get a bit of a test now after the Phoenix game, because you're looking at New Orleans and a back-to-back that Steve Kerr has reported said that he expects his veterans to play both halves of that back-to-back. So he's talking about Curry, he's talking about Draymond, who also personally expressed an interest in playing both of the back-to-back games. Klay Thompson, Chris Paul, and then, of course, the Iron Man, Kevon Looney, who expect to pretty much be in every single basketball game along with Andrew Wiggins. So the Warriors will get their first road test away from the state of California today, and I think it's a nice way to sort of ease them into this, what is going to be, quite honestly, a tough, difficult start by any metric, not necessarily as far as the opponents and kind of stacking up of who's going to be good and who's going to be a tough matchup. But anytime you have to start a season predominantly on the road, especially for a team that, let's face it, has gotten a little bit older, this is going to be somewhat of a challenge for the Warriors at the beginning of their season. Can they put the road woes that seem to plague them the majority of last season, can they put that behind them? And that's going to be a very interesting thing to kind of take a look at. And speaking of who might be in, who might be out, tonight's injury report is brought to you by Boxer and Gerson. For the Warriors, really only one designation at this point because Curry is expected to play. Draymond Green is going to make his 2023-24 season debut. Jonathan Kuminga is currently listed as a game-time decision, questionable to play against the Rockets due to that left foot soreness. Meanwhile, on the Rockets side, much more banged up from Houston, and I want to get to them in a moment because they are a much more reformed and a reimagined team down in Houston. But Victor Oladipo is out tonight with a knee injury. Tari Eason is out with a leg injury. And then, for those who are familiar with Jock Landale, played by nearby St. Mary's College, he is out today with a concussion protocol. And the injury report brought to you by Boxer and Gerson, Northern California's premier workers' compensation law firm, helping injured workers get their lives back for over 40 years. For more info, visit boxerlaw.com. As for the Houston Rockets, they had quite the offseason. Now, it's to be determined whether or not that will result in taking some steps in the positive direction, specifically the win column. But they did hire a brand new head coach, Ime Udoka, after a year-long hiatus, formerly, of course, of the Boston Celtics. Warriors fans very familiar with him with the Celtics team that was defeated by the Golden State Warriors in the 2022 NBA Finals. He is now at the helm of the Rockets after taking a year off from Boston, and he's got a brand new cast of characters. I mean, here are the players that were on the team last season that no longer remain. Kevin Porter Jr., for obvious reasons, don't really need to get into that too much. If you need to Google it, feel free. Don't want to give him too much time on these airwaves. Josh Christopher, KJ Martin, Usman Garuba, who is now with Golden State, and also Frank Kaminsky. And that's because Houston, this front office, did quite a bit to basically reshuffle this roster, and they spent a lot of money, not just on the head coach to bring in, but on the players and pieces that are expected to be able to take the next step for a very young Houston Rockets team. And that is a veteran point guard such as Fred VanVleet. 5 years, $130 million free agent acquisition. I know a lot of people felt like Fred VanVleet was, a solid perimeter player. Of course, he gave the Warriors fits in the 2019 finals. However, Fred VanVleet is now with the Houston Rockets coming off his time in Toronto. And so he gets a fresh face and a fresh place for some new scenery. Speaking of new scenery, a guy that Warriors fans are very familiar with in a kind of notorious fashion, and that is Dylan Brooks, the guard formerly with the Memphis Grizzlies. He got a 4-year, $86 million deal from the Houston Rockets. So along with VanVleet and Brooks, the Rockets spent nearly $250 million this offseason on two players that they hope can add to somewhat of a young core that, of course, has been bolstered by multiple top 5 picks, multiple placements in the top 5 or 10 designation in the last seemingly 4 or 5 NBA drafts, and specifically last year, the 4th overall pick. Amen Thompson, who played 2 seasons for Overtime Elite. That's a professional league for players between the ages of 16 and 20 based in Atlanta. But this should be a familiar name for those in the Bay Area, for basketball aficionados, because he hails from San Leandro, California. And before that, before he moved to Florida, was playing around the Bay Area. So a local boy, Amen Thompson, along with his brother, and now a part of the Houston Rockets, is Amen. And then the name that I think Warriors fans became familiar with due to his draft placement in the last draft in 2023, and that's Cam Whitmore. The one-year player out of Villanova was taken 20th overall. I know there were some Warriors fans that I saw that kind of thought, would Whitmore be the pick over, of course, Brandon Podziemski, who was taken by Golden State before him in the first round? So far, Podziemski has looked fantastic in preseason after kind of struggling a little bit with his shot in the Summer League, and it'll be interesting to see if and when Steve Kerr tries to insert Podziemski throughout this sort of primarily road trip, but also, of course, a home stretch and a home game coming up on Wednesday, because we saw the debut of Trayce Jackson-Davis into the NBA against Sacramento. He was a guy that saw some time against the Kings in the preseason, matching up with Sabonis. I thought he played very well in his minutes and was actually a big part, along with Moody, we're kind of talking about and touching about here on Warriors Live, talking about the insertion and the effectiveness of those young players for Golden State. Well, Trayce Jackson-Davis was on the floor in the third quarter along with Moody and Kuminga when they went on that run and started to build kind of that separation and cushion that they eventually would need because of the late flurry by De'Aaron Fox and the Sacramento Kings. So Trayce Jackson-Davis makes his debut as a Golden State Warrior. Will Brandon Podziemski get a chance to do so either tonight or, of course, tomorrow? I expect somewhere, I would imagine during the back-to-back, you would love to get some run from some younger players to at least try to lower the floor of the minutes from the veterans who are, again, expected to play both halves of this back-to-back between the Rockets tonight and then the Pelicans tomorrow. But it'll be interesting to see if Podziemski gets in because he's going to be going up against a Houston team with a lot of youth. Some other offseason additions for the Houston Rockets, in addition to Van Vliet and Brooks, their 2 high-profile free agent acquisitions. Jeff Green, coming off his first NBA championship last season with the Denver Nuggets. Also Reggie Bullock, Deadeye three-point shooter, has spent time with the Mavericks as well as New York. And then mentioned the 2 rookies, Thompson as well as Whitmore. And this is a Houston team that, again, the Warriors last season really were just able to kind of pick up W's and lay waste with. It was a team that was still struggling to find its identity in the midst of the Warriors trying to find their own identity. But still, Golden State 4-0 against them last year, a clean 4-game sweep. And once more, the fewest points that the Warriors scored in a game last year against the Houston Rockets was 116. One interesting connection, of course, much was made about Chris Paul and him coming to Golden State, specifically in the fashion that kind of transitioned Jordan Poole out of Golden State. But Chris Paul does have history with the Houston Rockets. It was a big part of that organization that, of course, fell short to the Golden State Warriors in the 2017 through 19 seasons. Now, essentially the 6th man tonight for Golden State. Chris Paul appeared in 116 games, all of them starts for the Rockets. 17-point average, including nearly 37% from three-point range, 5 points and 8 assists across 32 minutes. That was his average while he's playing with Houston, and a team that nearly knocked off the Golden State Warriors in 2018 when they took them to a 7th game. And it was interesting. I was in the post-game presser after the home opener on Tuesday against Phoenix listening to Chris Paul, and he kind of referenced something with the Rockets, and that was in regards to a question about how easy his job has become as, distributing, and also how the up and down, more up-tempo pace of Golden State compared to what Chris Paul has generally played in the past, how that pace has affected some pull-up J's and specifically his three-point shooting, because to this point, through 2 games this year, has not made a three-pointer yet. So how has that been coming along for Chris Paul? And he made a joke about how, well, as you guys know here, I played on a team that missed 27 straight three-point shots, and that was in reference to the 2018 Western Conference Finals Game 7 game in Houston. And, so it's kind of an interesting connection with Chris Paul making his way back to Houston and the Toyota Center, in which is about 15 minutes away from handing things off to Tim Roy. He'll be on the call tonight for the Golden State Warriors, as he is so often. I look forward to hearing Tim. And then tip-off is going to be at 4 o'clock. So this is Warriors Live. taking you up until the pregame at 3:30, and then tip off at 4 o'clock between the Golden State Warriors and the Houston Rockets. Game 3 of 82. Right now, the Warriors are 1-1 overall, and the Houston Rockets are looking for their first win. And a primary reason for that is because the Rockets are actually coming off an overtime loss, their last time out, to the San Antonio Spurs and the phenom that has been sweeping the National Basketball Association, and that is Victor Wembanyama, who absolutely took over that second half. I don't know if anybody's had a chance to see Wemby yet outside of the preseason game in which he felt like he put his fingerprints all over that game at Chase Center when they came here a couple of weeks ago, or pardon me, last week. But Wembanyama has been a sensation, and he is a reason why Houston is defeated to this point through 2 games, because they were in firm control of that. Spurs pushed it to overtime, and then the Rockets fell by a few points. This is a Golden State Warriors team that last season, and I think if we're talking about things that we've kind of picked up on, and was chatting with John Dickinson, who, by the way, will be back for Warriors Live and wrap-up starting tomorrow against the New Orleans Pelicans. He's down in Santa Clara covering the San Francisco 49ers right now. So Evan Giddings filling in for John Dickinson here today, and pleased to be joining you. One thing that we chopped it up about on Warriors This Week yesterday was, are you more optimistic about the things that you like, and does that outweigh some of the concerns that we've seen through, again, just 2 games? And my answer was unequivocally yes. I think the optimism surrounding the things that I like outweighs the pessimistic, kind of concerns that have been spurred by a few games, or 2 games, and then, of course, we'll see tonight. But, if we're listing things to be potentially concerned about, look, the first couple of games, I think Andrew Wiggins has looked not like the Andrew Wiggins that we've become accustomed to here with the Warriors. But he is a player that throughout his career has demonstrated some inconsistency outside of really that one postseason run, which resulted in a championship. And I think that is the type of level and stature that a lot of Warriors fans hold him to. And so when he gets taken out in the fourth quarter in Game 1 against Phoenix for Kuminga, and in Game 2, after the first quarter, has 5 rebounds, was involved in actually a very important final possession that Stephen Curry buried a dagger on against the Sacramento Kings. In between, there was some floating, there was some lackadaisical play that I think we're expecting Wiggins to come out of, and I think tonight is a great opportunity for a guy like Andrew Wiggins to remind us of the aggression, of the athleticism, and the on-ball defense against a much younger and inexperienced Houston Rockets team. Remind us of the player that Andrew Wiggins, we know he can be, rather than the one that we've seen throughout the majority of the first 2 games. So that is a concern of mine that I think is outweighed by my optimism of where he can get to. Meanwhile, Klay Thompson, I thought in the first game, certainly didn't have his best shooting night and looked a little bit like the Klay that was erratic last season. And, of course, the contracts and what's going to happen throughout this year after the season, of course, it always sort of enters everyone's mind. But for me with Klay Thompson, I saw a switch flipped in the first to second game, and a switch that really hadn't been flipped to me until about after midway through November of last season, and that was being able to step back, take a look at yourself, and understand the flow of a game. And I think that's why Klay Thompson went from a poor shooting night in Phoenix to now 7 of 12 against Sacramento, 2 of 4 from three-point range. That's the efficient and effective Klay Thompson I believe he can be, and the player he can be if he chooses to. And so that's something also to monitor tonight. By the way, that is a part of our Take It to the Bank prediction tonight. My Evan Giddings' prediction for this evening will be Klay Thompson is going to make 5 or more three-pointers against the Houston Rockets. And that's because Klay Thompson, quite frankly, absolutely killed the Rockets last season. 27 three-pointers were made by Klay against the Rockets in the 4 victories for the Golden State Warriors last year. That's tied for the 3rd most three-pointers made by a Warriors player against an opponent in a single season in franchise history, according to the Elias Sports Bureau. So Klay Thompson has absolutely eviscerated Houston in recent memory. I expect that to roll over and continue here tonight, beginning at 4 o'clock. By the way, that Take It to the Bank prediction is brought to you by Fremont Bank, full-service banking, no compromises. Evan Giddings with you here on Warriors Live. We'll also be joining you on Warriors Wrap-Up after the game. Of course, after Tim Roy finishes up down at the Toyota Center, we're going to throw to Tim in just about 10 minutes here coming up as our pregame coverage rolls on. And, this is a game where both teams are still trying to kind of figure out their identity. And I think for the Warriors, the introduction of Draymond Green is something that I think everyone is going to have to pull from, because he's going to be on a minutes restriction. But the fact that he's making his season debut tonight, forcing Chris Paul to the bench, does make you wonder if at full strength, is this going to be the rotation or the top 6 for Steve Kerr throughout the entire season? If he has all of his characters healthy, if he has all of his players ready to roll, is it going to be Steph at the point, Clay at the 2, Wiggins at the 3, Dre at the 4, Looney at the 5 to start games? And then, of course, the question becomes, how does Steve Kerr handle late game situations? I don't know if we'll necessarily find that out tonight. Number one, because I think Kerr just has so many options at this point to roll with that he's going to continue to kind of tinker here and tinker there. But also based on what the Warriors did to the Rockets last year and based on what I expect Golden State to do to Houston tonight, I'm not sure if we'll be in a situation in which that closing lineup is going to need to be necessary. I mean, basically the first 2 games, we've seen Paul, Curry be a mainstay, and then that sort of 3, 4, and 5 situation has sorted itself out. I think Chris Paul has earned the opportunity to close games for the Golden State Warriors because he takes care of the basketball so well. But what is going to be the final and starting lineup for the Warriors? That is going to be a question of mine. So apologies. And but I think that's something to be interested in as well. What is going to be the starting and finishing lineup for the Golden State Warriors? Also, eye on the stats. Want to remind you that the Warriors' 10-game overall winning streak against the Rockets is the second longest active streak for the Warriors against a single opponent, trailing only a 12-game winning streak against Cleveland. So the Warriors have won 10 in a row against the Houston Rockets. Also, another notable figure, speaking of Chris Paul, his 21 assists in his first 2 games are the second most assists in a player's first 2 games for the Warriors franchise, trailing only the 24 by John Lucas. Got to go all the way back to 1978. And so Chris Paul had 12 assists to 3 turnovers against Sacramento, and then had 9 assists to just 1 turnover against Phoenix in the opening game on Tuesday. So Paul has been absolutely fantastic, and the Eye on the Stats is brought to you by the Goodman Eye Center. When it comes to your vision, be sure to go with a winning team. Go to Dr. Daniel Goodman and his team at the Goodman Eye Center, the choice of champions. You can schedule a free consultation at goodmaneyecenter.com. Well, that'll just about do it for this edition of Warriors Live. Can catch us on Warriors Wrap-Up after the game and after Tim Roy is done. Tip-off at 4 o'clock, but coming up next, the voice of the Golden State Warriors is going to take you up until Houston and Golden State tip-off at the Toyota Center. Appreciate you tuning in. My name is Evan Giddings, filling in for John Dickinson. A reminder that he will be back tomorrow for the New Orleans Pelicans game. And coming up next, Golden State's going to try and keep its road momentum rolling against the Houston Rockets. 1-1, looking for a victory in the 3rd game of 82. Tim Roy's coming up next right here on 95.7 The Game.
I'm Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. I learned about atrial fibrillation the hard way. My symptoms would come and go. Shortness of breath, fatigue. I kept going. Then I got so lightheaded, I couldn't. My doctor said I have AFib, so I'm about 5 times more likely to have a stroke. Other symptoms,